founder of Innoventum. Please give them a warm hand. I'd like to first start to ask you to give a short presentation of what you do. So would you please start?
Thank you.
And I know you have some pictures to share with you.
Yes.
Teresa.
Thank you. Hi. I come from Portugal, really from the southwest of Europe. This morning, Paul Dujardin said he was coming from the south. I'm coming from the south. I teach design in Aveiro and also at the Politecnico di Milano, and I was an invited teacher also in Tongji University in Shanghai and also in KIST in Cologne, always teaching design for social innovation. And social innovation has been the topic of my research for the last 10 years, also within cultural innovation towards sustainability. And this research led me to this concept of creative places, which I have defined as being places where groups of people collaboratively promote and manage a mix of creative initiatives in the areas of art and culture, economy and production, social services, and urban regeneration. And where you find the overlapping of these three activities, you will find a creative place. For instance, if you have a place where you have a cultural and entrepreneurial activity, maybe you can have a cultural or a creative industry, but not a creative place, because you have to add these social initiatives within. And I've mapped a lot of cases in the world. I focus more on Europe. I know that now we can map much more than the ones I have previously mapped. And one of the things that we have concluded is that creative places, they contribute to a socially sustainable development, because they have this set of sustainable values, like a positive towards caring for people, things and environment, the search for a slower pace in life, and also the value of collaborative actions that we've been talking here today about collaboration, and also the notion of community and locality and culturally driven urban regeneration. Within this, I'm part of the DESIS network, and I'm leading a DESIS lab in Aveiro. I'm also in a different way, but with a multidisciplinary approach to science, research, and didactics. I'm setting up and coordinating a design factory in Aveiro. And the DESIS network, for those who don't know what it is, it's a network of design labs based in design schools and universities that are design-oriented, that are actively involved in promoting and supporting sustainable change. And DESIS network main aim is to use design thinking and design knowledge to trigger, enable, and scale up social innovations. We are more or less 40 labs. Right now there's a meeting in Hong Kong where I will gather them. And we have more labs joining, which means that the education is really into it, this design for social innovation and sustainability, which is a good thing. And design labs can be defined as teams of design school teachers and students developing their didactic and research activities in the field of design for social innovation towards sustainability. That's what we are doing. And I'm leading, I teach a subject which is design for social innovation in a master degree, and we try to develop as much as possible projects within local communities, local associations. Sometimes it's the students that search for opportunities, other times it's their people just came to us and asked us to collaborate with them. So we have a very diverse kind of initiatives and projects. Also the research and thesis in PhD and master, always with local communities, local institutions, local associations. And one of the things is that most of these projects, they are bottom-up initiatives, but they need top-down support, and most of the times they don't have a follow-up, they don't go forward because we are lacking this support. And this support could be just a municipality giving just making available an empty building or abandoned space, it is sometimes as simple as this. And I think that design has an important role here because these top-down initiatives, they have a strategic approach but lack of operative tools. And the bottom-up initiatives, they lack this strategic vision sometimes, but they do have this tactical approach. And design can merge the visions of these two and can create scenarios to help develop at least a positive and sustainable dialogue. We also been organizing social innovation workshops. This one, it is very interesting because it was a group of 11 municipalities in Aveiro region that asked design, social sciences and management to organize these workshops to map opportunities for social innovation and social entrepreneurship in Aveiro region. We have developed a website. We have asked for the help of technicians in the municipalities, but we have made like a grassroots project where everybody could mark and map themselves as a resource to do a company, a social-based company. And for instance, we made available a phone number for the elderly people that are not literate in digital technology, so they could call and said, hey, I'm here, I'm available to do something. So we have developed 4 themes. One was health and care, cultural heritage, agriculture and food, and tourism and environmental sustainability. And we have organized with design tools some workshops with several people from several ages. We try to help them with Playmobiles and some design tools to create a service idea based on social entrepreneurship. And so during 4 sessions, 2-day sessions, we developed some services. It was 12 services, now 4 are just going further. It all ended up with a huge exhibition that made the academic this was an exhibition in the rectorate of the rectorate building in the University of Aveiro, and they were really nice to see that we are working with the people, for the people, and not just with numbers or sometimes really inside the academic field and not outside the university. So I use a lot this quote from Mark Penn that says that it takes only 1% of people making a dedicated choice, contrary to the mainstream, to create a movement that can change the world. And I do believe that. So
Thank you, Teresa.
thank you.
Thank you. And over to Louis Feld. Look like you're a yoga guy the way you're sitting.
Sorry.
They look like you're a yoga guy.
Oh.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. I would not present Coal, but just rapidly, it's a French association dedicated to sustainability by art, and we organize an annual art prize named Coal Prize to identify artists everywhere in the world, and we organize exhibitions, research program with in association with philosophers, scientists, ecologists, and artists. Actually about food, and we help to conserve sustainable policy or cultural policy for local authority. And I would like just to share with you some images of artwork. This one, for example, to make grow our awareness, it's our actual situation with the future rise of the level of ocean and the decrease of biodiversity. Still about make awareness growing, and with humor, it's from Bansky, and the interesting thing is that art could be a tool for the ecologist as me to make convince more people about the importance of the topic. But not only with humor, it could be with beauty too. We didn't have speak a lot about beauty today. This image is printed on grass. It's from Accord and Harvey, UK artists. They use a negative of photography, the light, and depends on the filtration of the light, the grass grown more green or less green, and they print the images. This is something very important for us, the message of this image. This project named Lalali is a very old French name to name the cry of a deer when she's hunting and she will die. And this is drawing by words, and each word named a species in danger of extinction into a language in danger of extinction. It's to show the connection between culture, the danger for the cultural diversity and the biodiversity because they respond and corresponding of the same phenomenon, the global phenomenon and the systemic phenomenon. So the fight is not only about environmental topics, but it's connected to economy, culture, and society. And of course, we have spoken about the capacity for art to diplomacy, for example. It's a really huge topic because the art are able to have some messages with universal. The message of artists could be universal. Like this one, it's a couple, Lucy plus Jorge Horta. This project was named the Antarctica flag, and it's composed by all flags around the world. And just to finish, the most interesting for me, at least, is the creativity of artists, of course, to find solutions about sustainability. I come from a little region, Alsace, in France, in the east border, where we have a traditional architecture, and we have working with artists to revisit this traditional architecture with new raw material, to find raw material by recycling or other industries locally with little enterprises. And the thing is that the creativity of artists could be used and very impactful because, in the contrary of the other, they didn't have any agenda. They didn't have the obligation of economically efficiency. The project cost a lot, but we don't care. It's just a test, and it's like the R&D for the little companies of this area they can't afford alone, and this is an opportunity for them. In the same time, they didn't have politic agenda, so the people participate easily to the project, and that's the way the artist could be a partner for a really powerful partner for sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Loïc. And over to Sigvald Harrison.
Yes, good afternoon. I would first of all like to invite those of you who find these activities that I'm about to describe interesting to connect on LinkedIn. What we do is that we address a fundamental challenge regarding renewable energy. The challenge is that those who can afford renewable energy solutions don't want them because they find them ugly and intrusive and perhaps even noisy. Those who need them and want them, they cannot afford them. And because they don't have access to power, they also have zero access to communication and connectivity. So they are left out, unable to catch up with the rest of the world. So what can we do about it? What Innoventum does is to pursue a Robin Hood strategy, targeting the rich to give power to the people. The way we do so is that we make exclusive design for those who can afford and affordable design for those who need. Those affording exclusive design pay expensively for solutions and leave a contribution, making it easier for us to offer very affordable solutions to those who need. Now, how do you attract the rich? You need to seduce them. You need art. You need to bring art and beauty into renewable energy solutions. And this is what we do, inspired with the great art of, you need to guess whom. We make designs that actually attract people and that bring us to the catwalks of Business of Design Week in Hong Kong that Invest in Skåne organized a fantastic opportunity for us to join. And that triggered fantastic attraction, among others, by one of the largest petroleum companies in the world, Sinopec, with 38,000 petrol stations, considering to use this little creation. Now let's see, where should I point this? Here we go, the giraffe. I think probably it went twice, no? So the giraffe is not only an art-inspired innovation, I would claim it is a social innovation. And I don't need to claim it because I have backup from the Swedish Energy Agency giving us the award, the Social Innovation Award for the giraffe, because it brings renewable energy closer to the people. And what is interesting with this slide is that we have a lot of young people making cute photographs of the giraffe and posting these photos on Facebook. Is there something sad about it? Anyone? These individuals, having made those photos, are all much younger than what we are here in this audience. So it's sad that the old people like us don't care, but it gives us hope that the young generation does. So it's a dual message, isn't it? We talk a lot about gamification, social media, creativity at its core. And that is why I also allow myself to mention Pokemon. So we have a couple of giraffes here in Malmö. It's interesting that 2 out of 3 giraffes here in Malmö happen to be Pokestops. Now, why is that important? Some would say, what is this guy talking about? But I would say, since the launch of Pokemon this summer, our number of likes on Facebook has 5-folded. It took us 5 years to reach 6,000 likes, and now we are getting close to 30,000. So we like Pokemon. And we haven't yet reached Sinopec and the 38,000 petrol stations in China to use the giraffe as an electric vehicle charging station, where people using it can see that the energy comes from the wind and the sun, as opposed from coal, as we know is used prominently in China and other parts of the world. So what we have reached is actually Marrakesh. So this is COP22, and we were invited by UNIDO to make 3 installations in Marrakesh. Renault, Nissan donated 50 electric vehicles, and how do you charge them in a country not having a single EV? So there was not a single charging station. So we very quickly had to act to bring some renewable energy to charge the electric vehicles. And this gives us rings on the water, as the Born Global strategy is all about. So that now, for instance, today, I guess it's a bit of a lucky day here, because the general director of UNIDO in Vienna has asked us to put a giraffe in front of the headquarters in Vienna. So the giraffe is slowly but surely reaching out into the world. And of course, when it relates to affordability, we do have a less exclusive solution that has reached countries like Sri Lanka, the Philippines, and is now being installed in Madagascar. So we are working in 2 very different segments, and have a business model that manages to capture synergies in between the 2.
Thank you very much, Sigvald. If you want to visit the giraffe in Malmö, you'd go down to the Western Harbor, correct?
Well, actually, that giraffe left
That
for
moved.
Marrakesh.
That
Yes.
left for Marrakesh.
Yes.
What do you know? So where's the closest one? In Hyllie.
Yeah, in Hyllie you have 2. Otherwise, you have at Maxlab ESS, the visitor center is powered uniquely by the giraffe, having no other source of energy.
But close to Emporia Shopping Center, there's another one.
Yes,
Correct. Excellent.
Generation 1. Mm.
Generation 1. I'd like to talk to you about cross-sectorial work, Because in order to sort of push this development further with sustainable cultural influences in the future, we need to get rid of the silos, right? And work cross-sectorial. Loïc, would you like to give us some advice or some examples maybe on how your organization has been able to work cross-sectorial?
Maybe I will take one example, and for each question I will use the same.
All right.
Because it's a rich example, little but rich. It's a project with the local authority in a rural area in my original region in Alsace. I show you one of the one piece we make there. And the project was in a local area, in a rural area where the people are not aware about contemporary art at all, and people are mostly agricultural with a the old-fashioned agriculture with a lot of chemicals, you know. So it was not so easy to speak about sustainability either. And we are working with a local authority composed by an aggregation of 112 villages. The biggest one is 1,000 inhabitants, so little villages. And every year we invite 7 artists for 7 different villages to make a project with the community. So they go to live in a house with people, meet the local companies, the local authority, the school, the students, the old people, and together make grow the project of the artists. The artists come with a first project, but the project evolves a lot. And at the end, it's not the same project at all. And they construct the project. And we have a very little budget, but we have a lot of help. So at the end, we have a huge artwork. They should cost very much, but they didn't because everybody helped. And the most interesting thing at the end is that the day of inauguration, we have as much people as inhabitants in each villages.
Wow.
That's a way to work, very interesting to cross different way of working and different type of peoples around.
How is it funded?
European Commission,
Right.
thanks for her, and the local authority only.
Thank you. Teresa, in your experience, what are the sort of the advantages of cross-sectorial work?
Well, I think it's impossible to develop anything without being cross-sectorial, because you have to be open to look how other people do things, because most of the times they do things in a different way of what we do, and that's how innovation can just grab and evolve. And one of the things that I think it's really interesting, working in a university, people don't like to go outside university, for instance. But in my opinion, when you work with art, culture, design, everything related to the CCI, you really work with other people outside the academia. And you need to do this bridge to bring people together. But then you have to work with people. And that's the part that I think people are afraid to work with people, with real people. It's like, okay, if we are here developing our projects within our ideas, everything is okay. When you put people within the heart of the discussion, they are afraid. And I remember that we are trying to develop a social innovation project with different scientific areas, from the media, from the social sciences, management, and other fields. And they were trying to develop the budget, and they were all putting everything on the digital and the technical part of the project. So we have to create this digital platform so for people can have an online learning. And I said, okay, but maybe we need a place. We need to find a space. I don't know if it's in the city, if it's in the university. And everybody said, a place for what? For people to meet. What people? People. We are working for the people. So that's one of the things that it's really hard when you try to put a lot of different sectorals and professionals working together.
Thank you. Sigval, in your perspective, how can the cross-sectorial work be strengthened? I mean, you have experience from working with such diverse parties as the City of Malmö and International Petrol Company. I mean, that's public and private partnerships, sort of.
Yes, I think we have many well-proven and well-working triple helix, shall we call it, platforms and activities that play out very well. So I think that academia can play an important role in establishing networks across disciplines, so that you can bring the more creative disciplines in contact with the more technology-oriented and the more management and business model-oriented ones. You can foster industry-university collaboration, where you can thereby bring funding and business applications in contact with those who can and shall create the solutions that we need. And last but not least, you can organize events like this to bring different minds together, striving for a joint vision that is so much strengthened by the fact that we have the opportunity to talk about it like we do today.
When it comes to sustainable development, we've seen very many examples of how regions and cities have sort of gone further than governments. How can we enhance this trend or this strategy or this movement when it comes to the CCIs? Loic.
It's 2 points. It's because, as you know, the way we the impact on Earth depend on the way our industry and our citizens have their behaviors, and their behaviors depends on their culture. So that's the culture is probably the deepest tool to make grow sustainability, and culture could be something really common. The solutions are local, but the culture could be a common tool for making growth this kind of approach and project.
Teresa?
Well, I think if let me see, it's not easy.
How about best examples?
Because if you have when you have this small scale, everything is easier. When you try to scale up, like a government, it's completely different, because as much people you have, as difficult it is for people to work together. So if you have small scale projects or whatever, you can scale up this small scale, but the important thing is that to keep the size small, because when you go at the government level, I think everything it's much more difficult. We had a small project within a food diary to teach children to eat properly in 3 schools in Aveiro, from children with 7 and 9 years old. And it works so nice because it was implemented in the school, the teachers were involved, the doctors, the psychologists, the parents association, everybody was involved. It was easy because it was a small scale project. And it really has a huge impact on the children, because they arrived at home saying to their parents, please cook differently to me, because what you are cooking is not healthy.
Wow.
And I want to be more healthy. So it's really important. And it was a project that could be implemented at national level, but it never happens, because if you try to go to a big scale, I think things start to fall. I think if we have this small scale project, everything could be bigger without being bigger from the top down.
At the same time, we need to learn from best practices, right? Like we're doing here.
Yeah, I think it's the best way, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel each time. We need to do something.
Waste of resources. The 2030 agenda is being implemented now worldwide. What are your ideas on how cultural and creative industries can be an important part of this work? Sigvald?
Well, I
You
think
were just in Marrakesh. I assume you were in
yes,
Marrakesh.
that is true. Yes, so we were there, and the agenda. I think Mikael Damberg said it quite well that the creative industry should not see the internet and digitalization as a threat, but as an opportunity, and to link back also to the previous question about how to increase the pace at which we develop. I think using social media to show good cases that gets praised and communicated as inspirational cases for others to follow. I think this is a very important opportunity that we can use more of as a starting point.
At the same time, we have to be careful with the IP rights, etc., etc. There's sort of the balancing act there, isn't there?
It is true, though. There as well, I agree with Mikael in the sense that with digitalization, you get transparency. So you see who is using what.
That's true.
And you can get. It's better to get a small royalty from 1 million customers than trying to get 100,000 krona from one sponsor who may be really hard to find. So I believe also in crowdfunding for artwork, for public art, and other applications. So I think we should embrace digital media even more than what we do today.
Do you agree?
Yeah, but there's two points about how culture can help these goals. But one of them is the exemplarity, because the CCIs are huge. And for example, I remember studies about California, and they say that the CCIs are the second most polluted industries in the California, just after the
Second
oil
most
and
polluting industries.
yeah, just after the oil companies. It's amazing. And why? Because all the data centers, all the industry of movies, and all the travel, and it's a lot of consumption. And we didn't think about it. And the buildings, and and in France too, we have a program for exemplarity for the cultural institutions. And we discover that cultural institutions are really, really heavily polluting indirectly, not almost directly. For the Louvre, for example, with people coming from all over the world, you can imagine the CO2 bilan. But we have a way to be to exemplarity, and if we are example, we can speak to the other industry, not if we aren't. And for the others, we can help to find solutions, of course, and imagine a different way to approach the things. But probably, and it's every time difficult to speak about that, the CCIs can help to make deconnecting growth and pollution.
The decoupling, yes.
Yeah.
But I guess what you mentioned before is very much about where the energy comes from that runs the institutions, and also how we actually fuel how we transport ourselves.
Yeah.
So that those are big topics, obviously. Final question I'd like to ask about: how do we measure the impact of the CCIs? Can we sort of really get better at measuring the outcome, both the financial and also sort of the social output from the CCIs? Teresa, you're smiling.
Yeah, I'm smiling because
answer.
it's a huge thing. Everybody wants to measure the impact of social and cultural activities, not the economic impact. It is hard, and I think politicians most of the times don't like this because you need like 5 or 10 or 15 years to measure the impact of a small action within a small neighborhood or a neglected area in a city. It's not an immediate impact that you have. So it's really hard to measure because you have to monitor, but to monitor it will take time also to do
money.
that. Yes, and money, but I think most of the times it's time. It's not in one generation, maybe in 2 generations, and maybe we are just planting the seeds of something that we will see in 20 years, not right now. As the unsustainable consumption behaviors we had in the 70s, we are now just paying the price of that. Probably the positive impact of what we are doing here, it will be in 10 years, but it's really hard to measure the impact and say, look, okay, we know that these industries, they have trillions of euros of revenue, but the social and really the educational and creating more active citizens and more aware of their role in the planet, I think we just can measure it in a long term, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
Louis?
It's complicated to isolate the part of an art project or cultural project in the effect of a change. For example, if you see the rural area I speak a little earlier, we try to measure the social impact, the environmental impact, and the economical impact of the project, of the artwork, because participating people and so. And the indicator we can follow before and after, how to say if the part of biological, agricultural, before and after change, because this project, or not only because this project, of course, but what the part, we can't really, it's just qualitative and an appreciation. It's important for the authority to have numbers to explain it's a good spend money, but we can't really be precise. It's just indicators.
It's not easy, but we have to keep on trying, correct? Eh? Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights up here with me, and give them a warm applause, and you will get chocolate and a report.
Thank you.
Here you go. There's a wide variety here. So I'm sure you tried living here in Malmö. You tried it before. Thank you very much, Loïc, and thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you. Thank you. And the report is over here. One for each of you. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you. And now over to Navid. Thank you.
So imagine that a good conversation is like a really deep breath. First you breathe in, you hold your breath, and then you breathe out. And when you take that first breath, it's the start of the conversation, and then you hold space. And the longer you hold the space, the deeper the breath. So I know that you have been waiting to release that breath now, because you've been holding all those solutions and all those ideas and all those thoughts for the whole entire day. So now it's time to focus on the solutions. And we would like to invite you to focus on the solutions on a systemic, but also on a policy level. And bring with you all the inspiration, all the presentations, all the feelings that you had during this day into the conversation. Just to repeat the conversation principles. Listen to understand, give and claim space, and leave your ego at the door. I would also like to add 2 principles for this final round. Because we've been talking a lot about creating solutions together, right? We've been talking about co-creation, conversation, and cooperation. So I will add 2 principles for the final round. And please write this down. The 4th principle is listen for opportunities to help. Because you're also here to connect and help each other. So listen for opportunities to help. And the 5th might be the hardest one. Listen for opportunities to get help. So listen for opportunities to help, but also listen for opportunities to get help. because then maybe not only will you leave here with new ideas, but with new friends and new connections. All right? So the question we will put in front of you right now is, how can we work together on the matter and co-create solutions for a more sustainable world? How can we work together on the matter and co-create solutions for a more sustainable world? Let's talk.
So I'm standing here with Teresa Franqueira, and you are a designer, and you also work for the Daisies. Yes. Teresa, most ideas that we call creative and are turned into bigger ideas come from individuals, bottom up. How can we turn it around and get support from top down? How could governments, legislators, politicians, how can they help individuals become even more successful with their ideas?
Hi. Well, I think that's one of the huge questions about this kind of initiatives that come from the bottom. It might not be from the professional creative. It can be from a common citizen that have an idea, because we all are creative as human beings. And sometimes all you need is not money. Of course, funding is very important, but sometimes if you can help giving a space or a place or a time for people to develop their ideas, probably they will be they can turn into companies, into social entrepreneurs, because all they need sometimes is a place or a legislation that helps them just to bring together all the ideas and bring together all the people in a less bureaucratic way. I think that's one of the most important things.
Do you think legislators, governments, politicians, do they are they aware of how important they are for this creativity business?
Maybe not, because sometimes we ask them help and they don't understand that if we don't have their help, we can't continue. It's not going to a bank and ask for money, because then we need also some support for the exhibitions or the interventions that we want to do in a public space, or creating a place where we can teach the children or the elderly people. So sometimes it's really important that, but I think these kind of initiatives, they really can show governors, politicians, everybody, how important it is, the help they can give us. That is not money, because most of the times I think they are afraid. Don't ask me help because you want money. I don't have money. It's not money. It's other type of help that we need from them.
We also talk a lot about sustainability here today. Are there other aspects that are maybe as important as sustainability when it comes to why we should support creative and cultural industries?
Yes, they have an economic revenue, so it's important. It's not only this topic of sustainable values that are implicit in this kind of activities. They generate economic impact. They generate sometimes proud in the communities. They feel proud. They feel a sense of belonging, and that is really important, beside the fact that we can be sustainable, have the environmental. You can be sustainable socially, culturally, environmentally, economically. So there are a lot of ways of being sustainable. But I think innovation is really important within this. Of course, you need technological support to make some of these solutions can contribute to a sustainable development. And I think most important is to give people a voice, so they can contribute in the development of a more positive world, I say. Okay.
Thank you very much, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Welcome, Sigvald.
Thank you very much.
Sigvald Harrison, founder and CEO of Inventum AB.
Yes.
Please, Sigvald, how do we get more creative ideas turned into companies? How do we make them profitable?
Well, by creating a climate, or rather an infrastructure that allows for company creation in an easy, simple, non-bureaucratic way.
How much of this do politicians, legislators understand, is your opinion?
I don't think they do or can understand this, because I don't think there are many politicians who have created companies.
When coming to design, which is more important, that that an object is beautiful or that it's practical?
You need to look at nature, which has the unique combination of combining beauty and functionality.
So the combination is important.
Yes, beauty alone doesn't help you if it's not useful.
We talk a lot about sustainability when it comes to creative and cultural industries. Are there other aspects that are as important as sustainability?
Yes, I would say social inclusion, gender equality, and kind of happiness in doing what you do.
After spending a whole day here, what will be your takeaway from this convention?
My takeaway that I will bring down to Vienna to UNIDO's 50 years anniversary tonight is that if you have an industry like the creative industry that manages to get local authorities on board and manages to liaise also with the European Union decision makers so as to co-create in fact, a fantastic event. And by making that in a very professional, well-prepared way, like all of the discussants here and speakers were, interviewed and briefed a couple of weeks before the event. Everything has been organized in a perfect way. The dinner before today and all of this. So careful preparation and focus is of essence. That's my main takeaway that I will bring to the rest of the world.
So how is the future, would you say, for the creative and cultural industries?
The future is promising for those who dare to embrace digitalization.
Thank you very much, Johan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ville. Thank you.
And by that, we'll say thank you for now. So, Louis Cpfe, working for the Coalition for Art and Sustainable Development. Louis, when someone has a creative idea, what does it take to turn that idea into something that makes it possible to make it into a business?
It depends really on the project, but I don't know why, but I have an artistical example in mind. It's an artist named Sophie in the south of France, and they are working in a cultural center with a huge garden to identify some plants we didn't eat anymore, and they work with someone able to make glass, to eat, and to do it with this the perfume of this plant, and they develop a new business as an art project. That's something very interesting, and because it's new, with artists, with a beautiful package, with attention about beauty and design, it really work in a successful way. That's maybe a methodology to do success and sustainability in the same way.
That's a great idea. When it comes to design, which is more important, that something is beautiful or that it's practical?
Oh, of course practical, but if it's only practical and something else is as same practical and with better design, of course the second one will be more successful.
Most ideas come from individuals and kind of develops bottom up. How could legislators, governments working top down, how could they improve, make it easier for the creative individual to develop the ideas?
The most time the people with an ID need help because they have an ID, they have ability for one topic or another, but not for all of them, of course. And when you want to start a business, you have to be good in search money, define your brands and communication, and the heart of your things you have to do about your ID. So if we could share services when you start, services you can't afford, like communication, for example, it could be really interesting, and authority could organize that for the ID makers.
What would be your message to legislators and politicians? What help do you think would be most valuable for designers, for creative people?
To be most trustful to the people. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was all the interviewers for today.